All right, so I'm still in my electrical plan. And now what we need to start doing is we need to place a couple things. We need to do outlets, which would include power outlets, GFCI outlets, data outlets, phone outlets, TV outlets, anything that is on the wall that's an outlet we would place, low or high voltage. Then we would also want to place light fixtures. And then with the light fixtures, we want to place the switches. And with the switches and light fixtures, we want to show the wiring diagram. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we first need to have those families loaded in. So we got to go out and find those. The best place to do that is your Insert tab and the Load Autodesk family. So that'll take us online to the Autodesk library. And you can try to come look over here at lighting and then try to sort out which light is what. My favorite thing to do is to just make sure you go back so that you're browsing everything, and then I just search. So we want outlets. So let's type in outlet and hit enter. All right. And they have different kinds. See how it says data outlet, but then there's data outlet for the floor. I just want the normal data outlet. So we'll put a check mark there. And let's see if we can find an electrical outlet. So here's one. Outlet communication, that's probably the TV. So let's do that one. We want outlet GFI. Outlet duplex, that's probably good. Outlet for the range, sure. And that's probably good enough for now. So let's load in those outlets. Okay, so it's thinking about that and loading them in. While we're at it, let's also go back to Autodesk, Load Autodesk family, and let's do can light. See if that brings anything up. We probably want a can light. That's just a section, so we want to make sure we get the right one. Downlight recessed can. Let's try that one. Let's load that one in. Let's go back up and let's find pendant light maybe. See if we can find a pendant light. Pendant light disc. Sure, let's try that one. And load it. So we've got a can, a pendant. What's another light? Let's do surface light. See if that brings up anything. Surface light fixture. I don't know what that's gonna look. Maybe like a round light. Let's see what that brings up. Ceiling light, flat and round. That seems like it's a good generic light. Let's go with that. Let's pick the first one and load it. Okay, so we got our outlets, our lights. Now we need, what else? Switches. So let's put in light switch. Hit enter. Lighting switches. Let's try that. And load that in. Okay, so now I think we have all the families we need. Let's start placing them. I think we'll start with the outlets. So go up to architecture, you'll hit component, and then let's just type in outlet to find the outlets that we loaded. And let's see, so outlet communications, outlet duplex. So here are the ones we just loaded. I accidentally loaded some earlier when I was experimenting, so you can ignore it. You won't have all these other outlet types that I show in here. You should have this single duplex. Let's do that. That's just like a normal outlet, power outlet that you're used to seeing. And if I click, oh, it looks like it's not showing in this view. So let's go to our visibility graphics and make sure we have electrical fixtures on. What about lighting? Lighting devices and lighting fixtures, we want those showing. Yours should probably already be checked. You probably won't have this problem. It might just be me. Yours will probably have just done this. I made some settings in between videos that you wouldn't have made, so I accidentally shut off the electrical outlets. All right, let's go back to placing. So we're still in our single duplex outlet, and I'm just going to put one on either side for maybe nightstand lamps or for charging your phone, and then one on each wall. Now there's codes that have to do with where you place electrical outlets that if you're an architect or an interior designer, you will need to follow. But generally, if you keep them at least no further than 12 feet apart in most rooms is usually the standard. You don't necessarily need to know that, but well, not for this class, but in real life, you probably will learn that and be expected to know that. Now, closets, like right here, I actually don't need them everywhere. Closets are an exception because they're not really a space that you're in a lot. So I'm just going to put one in the closet. Okay, then another type that you might want to know about is the GFI. They're ground fault circuit interrupters. So it's technically GFCI. Basically what happens is it protects the circuit so that if water was to get into the outlet, it trips the breaker and it protects the whole circuit from short circuiting, and then it doesn't start a fire. So anywhere where an outlet could get wet, you have to use GFI. So in the bathrooms and on the countertops in the kitchen, you use those. So let's go back to component, and we'll use our outlet GFI, and we'll put those in the bathroom. Now, something I didn't point out before, but before I place anything, you can come over here and you can see the elevation you're placing these outlets at. And I want it up at countertop height. So it needs to be maybe 4 feet off the ground. I'm going to place this 4 feet off the ground in the bathroom. Oh, and you can see it disappeared. Let's fix that first. So, do you have any ideas on why it disappeared? Because I placed it at 4 feet rather than down at 3 inches or whatever these ones are set at. You should be able to know by now, because these types of things are going to happen to you and you need to try to, in your head, troubleshoot, okay, what's the problem? Why did my outlet all of a sudden disappear? It's because the view range. So if we go over here and click view range, you'll see basically anything above the cut plane disappears. So we set it at 4 feet and the cut plane is also at 4 feet. So it's not showing us the outlet because it's right at or above our cut plane. So let's just move the cut plane up 6 inches and see what that does. So let's do 4 feet 6 inches. And you see how it reappears? So now we're cutting through the outlet, so it will appear again. It's below our cut plane. So let's go back to placing GFI outlets. We need them in the bathrooms. And we need it above the countertops in here. Now in a kitchen, I think the code is every 4 feet you need. You need an outlet. Okay, so now we got our GFI outlets. And then if you wanted to, you can put in specialty outlets. The refrigerator needs one, the dishwasher needs one, the garbage disposal needs one, and the range needs an outlet. So I'll let you guys finish off the outlets. The next thing we're going to do, or the power outlets, I should say. The next thing we need to place is maybe some data outlets. Oh, whoops. I picked the wrong thing. So outlets communication. So there's CAT TV, tel data, and telephone. So these are not very descriptive, but CAT TV means TV and a Cat5 cable, which is data. So that would be data and TV, telephone and data, or just telephone. So I don't know who uses telephones anymore in their house, but you could wire the house for telephone. Let's just do TVs for now. Probably we want one in the bedrooms across from the beds, and then maybe we want one in here. So we'll put the TV there. Okay. Now, if you've done all your power, the next thing you might do is your lighting. So again, we'll go to components and we'll just look up, let's do pendant. And I'm just going to do, oh, these are ugly pendants, but we'll do them nonetheless. It's what we have. It's the option that we have. Okay, now do you see how when I go to place this, it's trying to like put it on the wall? It's because if you look up here, it's a face-based family. And it's, so whoever built this family built it as a face-based rather than like a ceiling-based family. So it just wants to stick to any reference plane or like any surface that you can get. So we don't want it on a vertical face. We want to place it, see how it says place on face? That's what we want. So right now, I think it's going to place it on the floor, so it's going to be upside down. So let's just click and I'll show you what that did. Let's click on it and go to a 3D view by clicking up here on the section box command. Do you see how it stuck it to the floor? In the kitchen? No, that's not what we want. It's like upside down and hanging from the floor. So let's go back to our main floor plan, or sorry, our electrical plan, and let's delete it. Instead, we're going to need to do our lighting layout from the ceiling plan. So let's go over here, click on ceiling plan. And if yours does this, I don't know why mine's doing this. When I click into the plan, it's just blank. It's because we need to zoom in. We need to find somewhere it's like, for some reason, it doesn't center on the view anymore. So if you just scroll in and out and kind of pan, you can find it. Or if it's off screen, the best way to find it is there's a command called zoom extents. And to be honest, I always forget where this command is because I have keyboard shortcuts for all this. But if you look over here in your view, and there's this little view controls here, if you do this drop-down menu, there's something called zoom to fit or zoom all. Either one will do this. So click on that, and it'll automatically zoom so that all the model elements fit in the center of your screen. So that's, if you ever have to do that, that's where I go. And again, you can assign your own shortcuts to that if you want. Mine is ZA for zoom all. So again, if it gets off the screen, I just hit ZA and it brings everything back on screen. So if that happens to you, that's what's going on. All right, so here's our ceiling plan. And this is where I need to place the light. Let's go to component. It remembers we were placing a light. But now we can't see our furniture or our cabinets. So this is a problem while I'm trying to place lights. I know it's going to be somewhere right here. Let's just do 2 over the bar. So this is where it would be helpful to have an underlay again. So let's go over to the view properties and under underlay, instead of none, let's do main floor. And let's have it look down. Let's see, looking down and looking up. Neither one seems to be, I want the cabinets, so why isn't it? Let's have it look down. Maybe the cabinets are missing. Let's go to visibility graphics. Looks like the furniture is missing. Yeah, so casework is turned off. And which is what we technically want in a ceiling plan. We want the casework shut off. But for right now, temporarily, we want to turn it back on. So just for temporary sake, let's turn it back on. So casework, furniture. So let's go to F for furniture. Shows that it's on, but my table isn't showing. So now my casework is showing. I don't know why my table. And same with my couches. Couches are definitely furniture, so that's not the problem. Let's go down to, there's a little button that's called Reveal Hidden Elements. Let's click that light bulb and see anything in red means it's hidden in the view, but it doesn't show that my furniture is hidden. So something else is happening here. It might be a filter. Nope. Okay, I'm not going to troubleshoot this right now because it's not really critical, but see, these are the funny little things Revit does. Someone else, because this is a template file, someone else set up this view and we used their view from the template, which means we don't necessarily know what's happening in the view. So you have to go figure out what the problem is. That's why I often, if I'm not the one that made the template, I like to create my own views from scratch because then I know all the settings that have been applied to it and I don't have to try to figure out what someone else did. But in this case, we're just going to keep going because it's not critical to our assignment. Because now we see enough of the furniture. I don't see the table, but I know roughly where the table is, so I can center the light above it. Let's put our pendants above our countertop bar, like that. And just to make sure that those are where they're supposed to be, let's click them both and let's go to our 3D section box. And now it looks like they are hanging from the ceiling. Let's see a little bit more of the kitchen. Okay, great. It looks like it's working now. Go back to our ceiling plan. Now while we're here, let's place the rest of our lights. We'll go to component and let's do our can lights. I'll do an 8-inch can. And I usually like them in the kitchen, and you'll want to take some time to space them correctly. I like to put them in a nice grid. And you can use your permanent dimensions or your temporary dimensions to do this. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And then we'll do some in the bedroom. Maybe I want some like this spread out in the bedroom. And then I'm going to use the create similar command. So if you click on any family, you can go up here to the create on the modify tab. There's a create section, and it's this one with the box multiplying into many box. If you click that, it'll automatically load your cursor with whatever family you were clicked on. So you don't have to go search for the family over here. You can just do create similar, and it'll queue it up here in your cursor. So I'm just going to place one on either side of the bed in both rooms. And now let's place our round surface light. So we'll type in round ceiling light, flat. We'll just do a 60 watt, 120 volts. We'll do that in the center of this room. And again, you'll want to make sure you're centering everything correctly. We'll do one above the dining room table. And just so you know, when I'm laying out centers of a room, the fastest way for me to find them is I go to annotate and I grab a detail line. And if you just draw diagonally in the room, like that, you can always find the middle of the room. So watch this. So I quickly, before I lay out my lights, I draw diagonals in the rooms that I know I'm going to have a centered light. Oh. Main floor ceiling plan. Why are my lights? Why can't I grab my lights? That's very frustrating. Let's edit the view range. And the view range looks like it's right. That's very frustrating. We got to be able to move our lights. Let me make sure. I might have been placing these on the wrong face. You see how these ones are black and these ones are not? Maybe these are in the actual floor. So let's go to our 3D view. You can see, this is good to make mistakes while I'm teaching so you can understand what I did wrong. See how all the lights are in the floor? That means I didn't pay attention to what I was doing. So let's undo all of these lights. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo everything I've done. And then I'm going to go back to place a component. Let's do my downlight. And then it says place on face, which is what we want. We just need to be sure what face we're placing it on. And because of the underlay, it's hard to tell. So I'm going to shut the underlay off to be none. So now I know I'm only looking at my ceiling, and we'll go back to place component. And now you can see it highlights the whole ceiling. That's how I know I'm placing it on the ceiling. So let's put the can lights back into this room. We'll put them back in our kitchen. Electrical plans, I'm not going to lie, are a little bit frustrating in Revit. And you can see why. Because I need to shut off the underlay so that I know I'm getting the right. And the reason it's annoying is because of these families. These are not great families. If these families were built right, I'd be able to place them, use it in my floor plan view, and it would automatically go to the ceiling only and not any surface in the view. That's the reason it's frustrating. So if the families were built a little bit better, but they're not. So let's copy these over. And you can see, because the cabinets are visible, it's hiding the one we placed in the ceiling over the cabinet. So there we got our grid. And let's create similar. We'll place our lights here and here. And because we can't see exactly where the bed is, we're just guessing for now. All right, then let's do our trick with the annotate and the detail line. Now, if yours like me, sometimes it doesn't want to snap to the edge. I want it to snap right there. There's shortcut keys for the snap commands. If you'd like, you can turn the snaps on. So by default, snaps are turned on. So I'm going to exit. I escaped out of the line command. This is something we haven't talked about before, so we're just going to take a minute to learn about it. If you go up here to the ribbon and click the Manage tab, there's a little magnet that says Snaps. If you click that, there's a drop down. There's like this dialog that shows you all the snaps you can use. So you can turn snapping off if it's annoying you. There are times where the snapping is frustrating. It wants to snap to something and you don't want to snap to it. And there's no way to get it to go where you want it to go because it keeps snapping. So you can turn the snaps off, and you can see to turn the snaps off, here is the shortcut. So SO on my computer. Then down here, there's all these different kinds of snaps, to endpoints, to midpoints, to the nearest line. So a bunch of them. The ones that we use most often are midpoints, so SM, and endpoints, SE. So those are the two shortcuts. So watch this. Now if I go back to annotate and use my detail line, you can see the square is an endpoint. So it's snapping to let me know. It's got that square to let me know. And it says right there, endpoint. That way I know I'm getting that corner. And then down here, it's trying to snap. See how there's a little X? It's snapping to the nearest line. That's not what we want. We want it to snap to that corner. So if I can't get it to work, I can type SE for snap end. And now I just need to hover near the end, and it'll stop snapping to the nearest point and instead try to find ends that I can snap to. And then again, if I do that in this room, and I just don't want it to snap to anything, I can do SO for snaps off, and now there's no snapping. But I want to snap to this end, so I'm going to turn it SE, and then it snaps to the end for me. So that's just a little tip. It's not necessary, but it's a good tip to know. So let's go back to architecture and component. Let's find our round light that we were using. And now here's an opportunity to do another snap. So it's automatically trying to put it on the line, but sometimes you can't find, I'm trying to find the center of this diagonal. And if I hover, center or midpoint is a triangle. So if I find a triangle snap, I know I'm in the center of that line. So now I'm in the exact center of that room. And now here, if I don't want to keep trying to go across the line to try to find the midpoint, I can do SM for snap midpoint. And if I just hover anywhere on the line, it'll automatically go to the midpoint and I can just click. So there we go. And then I just quickly select both of these and I delete them. All right, let's turn our background back on. So we'll go over here to underlay and we'll put main floor, and there we go. So now if you want, you can start adjusting things. If I didn't quite get these right, now I can select them and I can move them because they're on the ceiling and I am looking at the ceiling. So here we go. Let's move those tighter into the bed. And that's maybe more what I want. So you'll go through and you'll put all the lights in your project. I'm just going to stop here and I'll let you continue to do your project. Okay, so the last element we need to do after the lights are switches. So for switches, we'll go back to the main or the electrical plan. I'm going to close the main plan because I keep wanting to click on it. Okay, so here's our electrical plan. So now you can, when you go back here, you can see the lights are in faded gray because they're an underlay. Now we just need to put the switches on the wall. Let's go to component for that and we'll type in, we'll search switch. And you can see here's our lighting switch. And we just want, now you'll eventually want to learn about switch types. There's dimmer switches, which has a slider on it or like a rotating knob that you can use to dim the light. So you could use a dimmer switch. There's a 4-way switch and 3-way switches. Those are used a lot when you want to control a light from multiple locations. For now, we're just going to use a single pole switch because it's not my intention to try to teach you the different switch types. That's kind of an electrical thing. For now, we'll just use a regular single pole switch. And again, do you see how it's trying to place it on the floor, which isn't what we want? It's again, whoever made the family made it a generic face-based family, so it'll just pick any face to try to host to. So we want to come back up here and make sure it says place on vertical face and click that. Now it'll want to put it just on the faces that are vertical, meaning the walls. So we did lights in this bedroom, so let's put our electrical switches. We'll do one for the main light and we'll do one for the pendant lights. Then in the kitchen, we'll probably want to turn the lights on from where we enter from the entry. So we'll put a switch there for the main kitchen lights and we'll put another switch for the pendant lights. And then we'll also want to be able to switch the lights on from this side of the room. So we'll put one switch for the main lights and we'll say you're only going to control the pendant lights from that side. So we just need one switch for over here. If we did the dining room table light, we'd probably want to be able to switch it from this location or this location. And then again, if you had put your light in here, you'd probably add another switch. So you're going to get a lot of switches stacked up over there. For now, we'll just worry about the lights we've put in. And then in here, we'll do a switch for the pendants and a switch for the can lights. Oh, and we'll notice that the can lights are disappeared. So if you had a flat ceiling, it wouldn't do this for you. But because I put the tray ceiling in, they're disappeared because they're higher than the rest of the ceiling. And if you look over at our underlay, you can see it says the range. The base level is at the main floor and the top range of the view is at the roof level, which is at 9 feet. But my tray ceiling popped up above the roof level by 6 inches. So now I've got a problem. The view doesn't go far enough up. So let's see what we can do. It doesn't have an offset value, or otherwise I would just tell it to offset a little bit. But what I have to do is I have to send it unbounded, meaning there's no top. It'll just go forever. And then when I do that, you can see the lights come in. Now there's other issues that it creates, which I don't love, but I'm kind of stuck with. And that's the fact that it's also now trying to show the roof edge in addition to my soffit. So sometimes when you zoom in, sometimes this is a solid line and sometimes it's a dotted line because my soffits are conflicting with my roof, which is frustrating. So I'm going to go back into my visibility graphics and down to the roof settings. And I'm going to override my roof lines now. And I'll just do a 1/16 inch dash. And that'll kind of fix the problem. Well, yeah, it mostly fixed the problem. So we're probably good there. All right, so now I can see my can lights and my pendant lights. Okay, so we have our switches, we have our lights. Now we just need to do the wires. Now, wires I do with, if you go to the Annotate tab, I'm just going to use detail lines, and I'm going to click detail. And then you have a couple options. Some people like to use arcs. That's my favorite tool for doing this. I'll show you why. So with an arc line, you just pick the switch, and then you pick your first light, and then you just kind of draw an arc. And then I hit escape so that it doesn't link it to the last arc, and then I'll go to the other side of the light, and then I'll create arcs. So escape, arc. So I'll show you what I would do here. Like that. Oops. All right. Sorry, that's a lot of wires. And there you go. So the only problem is now if you move the lights, because these are just detail lines, if you move anything, you're going to have to redraw them, which is kind of frustrating. But that's how I do it with arcs. If you want to do detail lines, you can also use what's called a spline. And it's right here. It kind of looks like a weird curve. So if you click that, some people like to use these. So let's hook up the lights in this room using a spline. So you start at the switch, and then you're creating like curve points with your clicks. And then you end it wherever you want, and you hit escape. Actually, you hit enter, and it stops the spline. And then escape will make it so it will disconnect from the first one so you can start the second one. So some people like to do this, whoops, spline command. Some people like to do this like S shape, and they do their lines like that. And then I'll hit enter to finish the spline. And then I have to go get the spline command again. For some reason, it's not like an arc where you can hit escape and it'll disconnect it. For some reason, if you hit escape while you're drawing, so I hit enter to stop the spline. And then it immediately, once I've set the spline, for some reason it wants to go back to the last command I used, which was the arc command. So I have to go back up here and hit spline. I have to hit, oops, I hit escape too many times. Detail line, spline, and then we'll keep doing this. So this isn't my favorite method, just because it takes longer to sketch it. But there you go. So there's what splines look like. Some people like this look. I like this look. You do whatever you want to do. Point is, you're just drawing detail lines. So the other thing I like to do with my lines is I don't like the wires to be solid. I want them to be dotted. So we've been using the wrong line type. When you go into detail lines, there's the tools that you can use, and you can also pick the line that you want to draw. So if you would just pick hidden line from the beginning, then you can draw, let's hook up our pendant lights. So let's start here, and let's draw a line over to the pendant. Let's go to the center. Here's another opportunity to snap. See how it's picking a lot of different snaps. There's the perpendicular snap, there's the tangent snap, but I want to snap to the center. So the shortcut for snap to center is SC. Now if I hover over any curve, it automatically takes me to the center of that curve. So I can click here, and then I'll hit enter, and now my spline is at the center of that light. So we'll do the same thing to connect these two. Oh, whoops, I need to go back to the spline command. And I'll do snap center, SC. And here we go. And then snap center again, SC, click, and hit enter to stop my spline. And now you can see there's this curved line. And if I don't like that it's running through my other light, which I don't, you can pull these little points and you can change the way your wire looks. So you can do that to any of them if you want it to be more exaggerated. You can come back in here and adjust your lines like that. All right, so what do you do now? I've already drawn all these lines. So if you just click one and you right click on it and you select all instances visible in view, it'll select all the lines of the type that you drew before. So when we were drawing before, we had selected the wide lines, which isn't what we want. So you can select all of those and then you can just change that to hidden lines. And now it matches. So now we've got hidden lines and they're looking pretty good. So that's how you do a wiring diagram to your lights from the electrical plan. So by the time you're done, you'll have all your outlets in, you'll have all your switches in, and you will have hooked up your switches to all of your lights. So that is how you do an electrical floor plan. And you don't need to do this for the exercise, but by the time you turn in your assignment for this module, you will have needed to do the entire house. All right, good luck, and we'll see you in the next video.